Hello, folks. Thank you for joining. We're going to get started. My name is Larry Nunziata. I'm a channel account manager here at Zebra Technologies, and I wanted to thank you for joining our webinar today. It's going to be an exciting one. We're going to have two main subjects that we're going to talk about. One is the migration from legacy Windows Mobile operating systems over to Android that we see happening out in the marketplace. Kevin Lalick will be heading up that conversation. He's a regional product manager for OS and software platforms here at Zebra. The second half of the conversation will be centered around blockchain, and Shrikant Nastine, founder of Crave Infotech, will be guiding that through that. He is a digital transportation architect, SAP expert, as well as an expert on blockchain. So with that, I want to turn, we will follow up those conversations with a Q&A session at the end. So please feel free to type in questions into the chat, and we will address them at the end of the presentation. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Kevin to guide us through the OS migration discussion.
Very good. Thanks, Larry, and welcome everybody to our webinar here. If we go to the next slide, really what we want to talk through is, there we go. What we really want to talk through is the fact that our world is changing. Anybody who's deployed rugged mobile computing platforms, over the last several years, even going back as far as 15 years ago, is really, or more so, has really gone along a path that was led by experiences driven around Microsoft Windows Mobile or Windows CE. The challenge that we're facing, and we found out about this a while ago, is the fact that Windows Mobile and Windows CE is going end of support from Microsoft. In fact, mainstream support has ended already for those existing legacy platforms, and extended support, meaning support for the manufacturers of devices that run this operating system, is going away as well. You may have heard the dates of 2020 and 2021. Fact of the matter is that that's right around the corner. So our way of doing things now is going to be different than anything that they've done in the past. So as we go to the next slide, when we look at what's driving people's experience around mobile computing these days, it's really primarily driven around two primary operating systems, that being Android and iOS. When we look at the mobile computing market overall globally, the majority of the experience that's in the hands of folks out there in the world is driven primarily around experiences that are built on top of Android. In fact, Android even more recently has approximately 85% of the global market when it comes to smartphones. What that equates to, though, for us, for people that are delivering mobile solutions in the industry, for us as manufacturers, is, as we go to the next slide here, that changes the way that people interact with mobile computing platforms overall. So looking at the next slide here, there we go. When we look at that, we collectively as an industry of rugged mobile computing platform manufacturers had to make a decision, which meant that looking at all the choices of what's driving users' experience around a mobile platform and the openness of that platform overall has really forced the industry to change. Zebra, though, has had a long history in working on this Android platform. We recognized very early on in the market, when this market started to shift away from Microsoft and into something else, that we had to start driving a conversation with these manufacturers of the operating system and making sure that these operating systems were ready for the enterprise. when you look at our relationship and what's happened over time, we have cooperatively worked together in order to be able to establish standards of how devices are supposed to behave in the enterprise. When you look at things that Google is doing from providing enterprise class support and security and maintainability, uh, management of the platform and so on, a lot of that has been cooperatively driven through this type of relationship. And if we look at the next slide, we have grown that relationship on platform expertise. We know in your industry there is no such thing as a one-size-fits-all gadget. We know in pharma that there may be requirements for controlled manufacturing environments, for warehousing environments, and so on that require a different form factor depending on the use case. Whether you're a warehouse worker taking inventory or picking orders, or a sales rep that is responsible for delivering samples to a patient care provider. There's different form factors that are required. And over the years, we have come to realize or come to recognize that building this on top of a platform is really key in supporting the different use cases in these environments. Along with that has come a legacy in providing the manageability and security for this platform overall. So if we look at the lower half of the slide, there are things that we can do in order to be able to enhance worker productivity and moving towards a more modern platform. For example, we have features or utility within the platform itself that enable quicker scanning. If you have a label with multiple barcodes on it, be it a lot number, a date code, and a part number or item number, instead of scanning those barcodes individually, you can capture all three barcodes with a single press of the trigger and map those input fields map those collected fields into the appropriate input fields and so on. That's just one example of now how we can leverage this platform that people are used to using in their day-to-day life and start adding value into improving productivity overall for these workers at large. If we look at the next slide, we talked about that utility which we refer to as SimulScan, but now think about other capabilities of enabling your workforce to be more communicative. For example, there's another utility that we've got that can be added on top of the platform called Workforce Connect PTT Pro. Think of it as a business tool that enables instantaneous walkie-talkie-like functionality or Nextel-like functionality for those mobile workers within the warehouse, and not only being able to talk to a supervisor or a manufacturer, somebody on a manufacturing line, but also be able to cross network bounds. For example, if I wanted to talk from my warehouse worker to find out when my next inbound route truck is going to be, I can talk to that truck driver directly. Again, providing that type of functionality. As we've grown the software utility and capability, these all add incremental improvements to the platform itself overall. Next slide. We use these tools to be able to solve issues when it comes to this migration. In cases where I have to make sure that I provide a secure environment for my workers at large. We have extensions built on top of the platform itself to be able to secure the handset, to keep these smart workers from being able to sideload or download other applications that they shouldn't be running in order to maintain productive focus on the tasks at hand. We talked a little bit about SimulScan, being able to capture multiple barcodes with a single press of the trigger. We have even worked with our design factor, our human factors team, in order to be able to design keyboards that allow an easier migration from somebody who is used to working on a legacy platform with a keyboard into something that is more touch-centric and lacking a physical keyboard. We refer to that as an enterprise keyboard. Allowing workers to be able to do that. And when we touch on security, we look at when Zebra looks at security, we look at it through a couple of different lenses. How do we keep bad things from happening in the first place? And what if a bad thing does happen? Let's detect that happens that has happened and then take action against it. And finally, having a path to maintain a secure posture in your mobile deployment overall, which is more critical in this mobile infrastructure overall. On the next slide, we talk specifically about the depth at which we protect the data, the device, the platform itself beyond what is provided by standard Android itself. Android does a really good job as far as protecting the core. If we look at the bullseye target on the right-hand side of the slide, the device in the middle is well protected by Android itself, but we add on additional layers or protection against the data on the device by preventing unauthorized users from accessing the device, preventing installation of unauthorized applications, keeping users out of places that they shouldn't go, and if an application is executed that shouldn't be running, we have the ability on the platform in order to be able to shut it down. This is important, and this is a really key differentiator when we look at rugged mobile computing platforms that we deploy to make our workers productive and contrast that against what's available on the consumer market. When we look at the next page here, this is really more important because when we think about security overall, we follow guidelines that are set forth by standard organizations and best practices. And the one I always like to refer to is this device security paper put forth by the Department of Homeland Security, which has looked at mobile devices and what it takes to deploy it, maintain a secure posture in the environment. And the next transition here talks through those 3 key recommendations. Fascinating reports, the links at the bottom of it. If we go to the next transition here, they come back and basically the Cliff Notes version is saying, if you are to deploy modern platforms in your environment, make sure that you have a patch strategy in place to protect them against publicly known vulnerabilities. When you're looking at vendors to provide this technology, make sure that they provide support and patches in a timely manner. And finally, this third point is when devices are no longer supported with updates, the enterprises should decommission those devices. And especially in pharma and healthcare organizations, this is becoming more critical to maintain a secure posture. So we go to the next slide past this one here. It's important because the majority of the vulnerabilities these days are not against the operating system, or they're not against the OS. It's if you have Android or iOS or Windows or Apple machines overall, you need to be updated against these physical layer vulnerabilities that are exposed these days. If you're using a Bluetooth radio or a Wi-Fi radio or a network connected device in some fashion, you have to have a way to protect your platforms overall. And this is important, especially going off these legacy platforms, because the vulnerabilities are different. The exposures are different, and it's important for us to be aware of it and have a plan in place to do that. So we go to the next slide, where Zebra comes into play is the fact that we have programs in place to select these, to protect these devices for the long haul. We know organizations make investments in technology to last a long time. We know they make investments in technology for more than 36 months, or the life of a typical consumer platform. So we go to the next slide. We have a program in place under Lifeguard to be able to provide protection for devices for this long-term plan. We make products to last. So if we have a product that launches with what we refer to as a 5.5 life cycle, 5 years from start of manufacture, that it will be available for sale. Eventually all products go end of life, and when we do announce an end of life on that, our commitment to you is to provide 24 months of post-sale patches and security updates for that operating system at which the device was retired at. And you also have the ability to purchase additional lifeguards, and this is the additional updates, and this is all part of our lifeguard program. So right out of the box, these these devices are available and provide a very secure posture in these positions that are making this migration from legacy ways of doing things to the next one. And then the final couple of slides here, I just wanted to summarize that, the world around us from Windows Mobile into something else is changing. In order to maintain a productive environment for your workers, give them the tools that they're used to working with in their outside of work environment. Hence, an Android platform is key to do that. But at the same time, keep the workers productive and smart about their workforce. Give you the ability from an organizational standpoint to control the deployment and control the user experience and maintain a secure posture overall. So with that, I will return it back to the folks on the driving a WebEx here in order to go through the value that Crave brings to the table.
Awesome, thank you, Kevin. So just as a reminder, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat. Next up, Shrikant will walk us through blockchain and the value that it delivers as well. So Shrikant, feel free.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you very much. That was a very informative session from our Zebra colleague about the Android in warehouse. And obviously, this is very important, especially because the Windows is phasing out. The Windows Mobile, I shouldn't say Windows. Windows Mobile is phasing out early next year, and that has given a lot of us an opportunity to take it to the next level and look for other operating systems. And obviously, Android is the choice of the customer as of now. Let's switch gear to something more interesting or equally interesting. So we'll talk about blockchain. Blockchain is another name which we hear every day now, and there is a lot of hype about it. But we'll talk about some of the myths about blockchain and where blockchain can be used. A little bit about myself. I'm into the digital transformation space for last 27 years. And worked in different technologies, different industries, and I enjoy the digital transformation and process automation. I'm one of the principals at Crave, and digital transformation is what I enjoy. So let's talk about some of the myths about blockchain. Yes, I'm sure if you Google, you'll find a lot of stuff about blockchain. But we tried to put few of them here. Is like blockchain is going to solve the problems of the world. That's one thing we hear a lot. Blockchain is cannot be hacked. It's a crappy technology. It's a bad vision. Blockchain cannot be scaled, and there are so many myths about blockchain. And we'll try to take next 10 minutes, and I'll try to walk you guys through what is blockchain and some of the use cases we worked on, and a little bit more about blockchain to give you a starting point. So blockchain is a technology has been built with hypermetric structure for strategic planning, solving the problems that ERPs are trying to solve for years, and which is true. Just to look at, there are two key elements of the blockchain, and one is the transaction, or the actions created by the participants in the system. So that's what people are making activities or doing activities in the blockchain. And second is actual block record. These are transactions, and they make sure they are in the correct sequence and have not been tampered with. So that's the function of the block records. So there are two things. One is the block records and the transactions. So those are two key elements of the blockchain. We all know in 2006, the Amazon Web Service was just launched, and now in 13 years, we see that majority of the ERP installs have shifted to the cloud. So there is a lot happened in the last decade or two, and the same with other technologies, including blockchain. And blockchain has become more usable, also to a certain extent affordable. Let's talk about what blockchain means to us. So what are the advantages of blockchain? It's public, it's decentralized, and it's secure. What is meant by public? everyone participating can see the blocks and the transactions stored in them. That doesn't mean everyone can see the actual content of the transaction. However, that's determined by the access level of the whoever is participating in that blockchain. So that's public. It's decentralized. There is no single authority that can approve the transaction or reject a specific rule to have transactions accepted. That means there is a huge amount of trust involved, since all the participants in the network have to reach a consensus to accept the transaction. There are many algorithms for the consensus. It can be 100%, it can be certain majority, it can be 75%. Those all rules can be defined. So that's how it is decentralized. And finally, it is secure. The database can only be extended, and the previous records cannot be changed unless you are authorized and you are ready to spend a lot of efforts to change the previous record. So it's very secure. So these are the advantages of blockchain. Some of the use cases around blockchain. So we hear a lot about the smart contracts. It's been the most popular example of the blockchain. So there are digital rights, wages, escrows. You can use smart contracts. Digital currency. This is the most popular we have heard. I think that's how we started knowing about blockchain, is from the currency. So e-commerce, global payment, remittances, P2P lending, microfinance, record keeping, title records, ownership, voting rights, intellectual property, and then finally security. So you see, these are the use cases which have been tested around blockchain technology. Let's talk about what we have done. So one of the use cases we worked on, which involves end-to-end process, is tracking the milk coming into the neonatal wards in the hospitals. So as you know, neonatal is the ward where premature babies are kept until they are safe to go into the world where we walk in. So they are very vulnerable to any changes, and there is a need to track where this milk is coming from. And we have been involved in a use case where there is a blockchain technology used to track the milk from the cow who basically delivered the milk until it comes to the ward. So if there are blocks and there are chains, right? So different blocks are used. The nodes are used by different participants in this process. So that includes the farmer, includes the processing, distribution, retail, and then finally to the hospital. So that's one use case. The second use case is about the finding out the counterfeits. Counterfeit is a big problem. It happens to everybody. It can be mobile computing devices, printers, medical devices, medicine, but it's more the blockchain usage was more focused towards which is related to the human life, and that's around the medical devices and the medicine. So there is a central repository where all the manufacturers, they basically post what they have produced, what are their serial numbers, and all the details. They are stored into a central repository on a common server, and one of them services is provided by SAP. SAP has that service where manufacturers store their data, and then when it goes out, you know which distributor had what went out. But the important part is, if anything comes back, you want to make sure that that is not a counterfeit, and that's very easily achieved by the distributor by scanning the barcode on that returned material, and then that makes a call. So you can see the scanning devices are used for that purpose. It makes a call to the central repository and returns back the information whether it is a counterfeit or legitimate. If it is legitimate, is from which manufacturer so that you can verify that information instantaneously and validate that it's not counterfeit. Very simple example, but very powerful. It's life-saving in many cases, and that's how the blockchain. This is another second example where we have been involved to develop this mobile application for distributor and retailers to validate whether it's a counterfeit. A little bit about Crave Infotech. Crave Infotech is an 11-year-old company. We are an independent software solution vendor. We are leaders we consider leader in the mobility solutions and UI UX transformation, best of the breed for mobilizing, automating SAP use and automating SAP user experience. We are also Zebra ISV and reseller. We are also SAP's VAR and member of their global SAP partner build program. So basically co-innovate. So we co-innovate with SAP, we co-innovate with Zebra, and also we co-innovate with another company called HereMap. We have a global presence. Our headquarters in New Jersey and physical presence in different locations globally. This is our industry focus. Some of our credentials, we won last year's ACE Award. ACE Award is given by a community of SAP community for the best solution, partnering with customer. Also, we were Pinnacle Award finalists in 2015. So these are some of our credentials. Now moving to how we can help you. So what we bring to the table is we have a very clear transition path from Windows to mobile, whether you have SAP or non-SAP. We help you to change your user interface. We help you to change your minimize and simplify your architecture. And that's how we can help you to achieve up to 80% of total cost of ownership using our prepackaged solutions. We have prepackaged solutions into different areas that include warehouse, supply chain, DSD, field service, and many more. What I want to do is, with the essence of time, I want to just show you quickly a glimpse of our application, how they look like. So this is one of our, sorry about that, the screen was open for a while. So this is our list of different applications, and this is a screen of our inventory manager or warehouse management application, where there are inbound, outbound, physical inventory, and internal transfer. Basically, we have automated 39 plus processes out of the box. So we bring in the front end, we bring in the middleware, and we also bring in the back end stack. And our applications are configurable, so they allow us to adapt to your situations, your nuances very easily without making any code changes. In the inbound, we cover goods receipt, goods reversal, goods return, put away. And in outbound, we cover reversal, PGI, pickup, physical inventory, and several internal transfer, bin to bin, internal goods receipt. So this application works for inventory management and also for warehouse management. The best part of this application is it's all complete responsive. What is mean by that is the same application, same code base works on a tablet or works on a mobile phone or works on a desktop. So you don't have to change the code. It works on basically all the platforms, operating system, but this is very well designed for Android. And most important, last thing is all of our applications are validated by Zebra. That means they are tested for memory leak, they are tested for user interface, they are tested for end-to-end integration, and they are tested for battery usage. So the applications are ready to go as soon as they are out of the box. So with that, if you have any question about blockchain, or if you have any question about how we can help you to get you to a better user interface on the Android platform, please reach out to us, and we'll be very happy to help you through this process. I'll hand it over to Larry for the closure.
Thank you, Shrikant. I always learn a ton when I listen to you talk about your business. I want to open it up for any questions. I do not see any in the chat thus far. You could either raise your hand or put a chat in at this point. But I also want to thank everyone who's on the call as well for joining, and we definitely hope that this has been a really good use of your time.
Larry, Kevin Lalick here. I just wanted, while you're compiling any additional questions, I just wanted to make a comment on the application that Shrikant showed. You know, and I thought, number one, the design of that is absolutely brilliant because it is a responsive architecture in that you can display it on any form factor. So regardless of the device, regardless of the workflow, regardless of the device that is targeted towards that particular use case, every user will have a common experience of that application. I thought I thought that point there was absolutely brilliant, and also that it's driven the way that people are used to working on applications these days. It's all very button centric, very you know, application driven, very much in the way that our users are used to working with technology today, which minimizes the overall training time and bringing new workers up to speed on these very complex seeming applications, a very simple UI. So nice job.
Awesome. Thanks, Kevin. I do not see any questions at this time. What I'd like to do is thank everyone for joining. If any questions do pop up or pop to mind, please feel free to reach out to Crave Infotech, as well as if you have any needs where it comes to switching over from Windows to Android, blockchain, or SAP. Reaching out to Crave and Zebra is certainly something that we hope you will do. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.